I mentioned Bell Labs, and that's kind of where I started from. So on the tech side, I worked in a group actually that caught the first cyber criminal, Robert Morris. Do you recognize the Robert Morris worm? His father actually worked at the lab and he created the first internet worm. And, one of our groups, a group I was in actually, nailed him.
So he created the malicious worm, and his father, his role was to protect.
We got a son to work there as a, intern during the summer.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the heads. His father was one of the heads of cybersecurity. So that was interesting.
Makes for an interesting family conversation. Welcome to Speed Data, quick conversations with cybersecurity leaders. I'm your host, Megan Garza. This week, I get to speak with my friend Ralph Severini, the global leader of insurance alliances and commercial insurance at Amazon Web Services. Good to see you, Ralph.
Good to see you, Megan. I'm in the cold, and I think you're in the warmth. So.
Well, today's an anomaly, so I'm right there with you. Ralph owns the strategy and business development for global commercial insurance at AWS. With 30 plus years in tech and financial services, Ralph has worked in everything from brokerage to underwriting to risk management. The knowledge buff studied mathematics and engineering at Rutgers and has a master's degree in science and in business. He put his MBA to use when he formed a jazz record label to produce and market jazz, recording internationally renowned jazz artists. That is so cool.
Some days I wish I was back doing that. So.
Speaking of international, your position at AWS has global oversight. How do you address concerns around cloud security and data sovereignty in global markets?
Megan, one of our main benefits at AWS is our worldwide footprint, and this enables customers to deploy globally, literally within minutes. AWS has 34 regions and 108 availability zones. As you can imagine, our customers are more likely than not to be operating more than one region because their customers are located around the globe. And then secondly, AWS customers always retain ownership and control of their content. So regardless of where a request comes from customer data, we don't disclose customer content unless it's required to do so with a legally valid order. We also notify the customer before disclosing their content. So they could seek protection from any disclosure, And then let me also say that customers can choose to encrypt their content, and we provide tools that they can use to do so. I think you're kind of doing the same. So, or you can, or suggest those. Our customers can choose from a number of supported third-party solutions, and then customers can choose which region to store the data in. Our customers own and control the data, where it's stored, how it's stored, who has access, and we don't move data between regions without customers' consent.
Yeah, sounds like they have a lot of control over. That's great. And what is your approach to balancing regulatory compliance? You mentioned, legalities with the need for an agile cybersecurity solution.
As you probably know, our infrastructure is built to satisfy, pretty rigid security requirements. We have over 300 security compliance and governance services and features, 143 supported security standards, including HIPAA, FedRAMP, GDPR, FIPS, NIST, the rest of those.
All the acronyms.
all the acronyms, exactly. So, we've been in business for 18 years. We've been delivering cloud services to millions of customers around the world. We believe we have the most operational scale and experience of, any of the cloud providers. And we often say, and I use this expression a lot around my family, there's no compression algorithm for experience. And that's because you can't learn certain lessons, until you get to different levels of scale and experience. So experience is important. We have a wide variety of documents, encryption tools, and other guidance, which we can and do share with our customers. And we have thousands of partners like yourselves that offer those hundreds of tools, features, and other advice to our customers, whether it's for network security or access control or other things.
And what role does cloud computing play in modernizing insurance operations?
Yeah, we often talk about cost as being kind of the number one play, but to build data centers, you have to purchase the hardware for those data centers. You got to spend money on hiring training staff to run those data centers. You got to pay for the electricity and power to turn the data centers on. With the cloud, you can avoid a lot of those costs. And I started with cost, but that's really not the number one reason I think any enterprise is going to the cloud. It's usually for the agility and speed for which you can, ratchet up applications.
Yeah, you can definitely ramp up a lot quicker. And are there specific emerging technologies that you believe to be just kind of game changers for the insurance industry?
Yeah, I guess if I didn't talk about AI and Gen AI, I wouldn't be really talking here. So, Amazon's been really kind of tackling this for a number of decades. If you think about it, Amazon uses it to optimize our supply chain, create better search for our customers on the retail side, and deliver new experiences like Alexa. It's like all of that is not at the AWS side. That, to a large extent comes from the innovation and AI use at the Amazon side. Gen AI is kind of this next step in artificial intelligence, and it's going to, arguably reinvent every application we interact with, whether we're at home or at work. And we're seeing it where, in Gen AI, where customer service reps are answering questions more easily, precisely. And you're seeing this with intelligent chatbots today, as you probably recognize in all your, interactions on the net and buying things.
How does AI influence fraud prevention in your industry?
Gen AI, for one, can amplify the exposure to bad actors. And bad actors are generating malicious code. It's not a possibility. I think it's a reality.
Yeah.
And I think I may have mentioned this to you, but I'll repeat it for this. About 20 years ago, I predicted that someone would break the Texas Hold'em online game. And a group of bored mathematicians in Eastern Russia broke the online game through some, they say, simple techniques. I haven't seen exactly how they did this, but, the number of permutations in Texas Hold'em is something like 10 to the 67th power, which they say is comparable to the number of atoms in the universe. And so, this large number. And here's some guys in Eastern Russia with some math, some card, savvy, and a few laptops, literally, and they break this. So this is the scary thing that, there's plenty of bad actors out there still, and they can easily incorporate Gen AI to build malicious code. These are some of the areas that I think will really consume Gen AI and more of the AI techniques. Fraud prevention and awareness. There's technology companies like Varonis that have been using these for years, where they're modeling fraud, and they can score an individual claim and then pass that on to the claims adjusters. So hopefully perpetrators are not going to be able to fool insurers quite at ease as they had been in the past. So that's the good part.
Yeah, you and I share a love of Hold'em, and that actually made me think. I got an email the other day from the Wall Street Journal that the gambling and gaming industry were targeted with more attacks than any other industry in 2024.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So kind of switching gears a little bit here. What skills do you think make cybersecurity professionals great at what they do?
That's a good question. I was a techie, so you got to have technical skills. You can grow them at a university. I know a couple of people. One person who I worked with at Bell Labs, and she did not have a higher education, which is extremely rare, at a place that requires PhDs and master's degrees. So it depends on the person. I also think detective skills and just plain old curiosity are, essential to doing a job here, because you're always kind of hunting and pecking. So I worked for an Israeli company at one time. I think Israel's got just a ton. I've even invested in one in the security space. I remember there was a IDF unit that specialized in this area. And a couple of people I worked with came out of that place. A lot of smart people.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are skills that, Israel developed to protect and secure, lives of millions of people. And to me, that also goes a long way. So, education, detective skills, just your innate curiosity. And then countries like Israel that have built up that skills through the background of them protecting themselves.
Yeah. You mentioned Israel. So actually, fun fact, Varonis means hero in Latvian.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a great hotel in Herzliya that used to be on the beach called the Daniel. What a great view outside of that. If you go there, just,
I want to go one day. I hope to go one day. What inspired your interest in the intersection kind of insurance technology and cybersecurity?
I mentioned Bell Labs, and that's kind of where I started from. So on the tech side. So they invented the transistor. They had 8 or 9 Nobel Prize winners there. That inspired me. I worked in a group actually that caught the first cyber criminal, Robert Morris. Do you recognize the Robert Morris worm? His father actually worked at the lab, and he was a grad student from, I think, Cornell, and he worked there one summer. He left the labs and he created the first internet worm. And, one of our groups, a group I was in actually, nailed him.
So he created the malicious worm, and his role was to protect.
His father, Mr. Morris, he was up in Murray Hill, which was the center of Bell Lab. And, that's how he got his son to work there as a, intern during the summer.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the heads. His father was one of the heads of cybersecurity. So that was interesting.
Makes for an interesting family conversation.
But anyway, on the insurance side, I got started as an underwriter. And then I underwrote Honda Motor Company, became an insurance broker. I blame this all on my dad, actually. When I grew up in New Jersey, the 2 biggest employers were Prudential and Bell Labs. So over 50,000 people worked in New Jersey for either one of those and two employers. So I kind of got hit with both. And, but there's a lot of people who blame someone in their family when they joined insurance, but I kind of forged the two all the time.
And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I have to ask, if you were in cybersecurity, what would you be doing?
My first major in college was civil engineering. So, and even as a kid, I was always building. So I do enjoy building. And I've been on 3 towns planning commissions. So I've spent a lot of time with developers that I don't work for, so to speak. And you already mentioned the jazz.
Yeah.
If it only made some money, it's a labor of love and truly a labor of artistic, endeavors, because it's, all the money's made on the traditional rock side of the biz. But one of those 2 or 3 things.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Ralph. It was great chatting with you and catching up and seeing you. Thanks for being a part of Speed Data.
Yeah, and really nice chatting with you again, and same to you.